Here with the ringleader and everyone's second favorite kitty, Malacca. What are we cutting open?
We have our first round of TPP swag.
Ooh.
And unlike some people that we found out on our first episode this year, it is still beanie season.
It is beanie season, Mason. Let's get a first look at these. Oh, Becca's gonna be jealous.
She is. We have three different colors. We have gray, we have black, and we also have navy blue, so you can get whichever one you choose. So limited supplies to start things off.
Limited supplies.
Limited.
Remember, get it before Malacca does.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Track Packers podcast. We are in season 3, episode 2. Welcome back. It's been a few weeks since we've been last together, and we have a very full field ready to go for episode 2 with myself, Mason, along with Becca, Gordy down in Jessup's spot, and back right for the high riser. He has returned to Mr. John Breckel. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Good to see you once again. It's nice to have returned.
Yes, and there's our Collinsworth, Jessup Pelkey as well. So we have a double Collinsworth plus Gordy. I'm sure Oli will make an appearance as well, as he had a lot of camera time on the last episode.
He's on the other side of the computer.
Very much so, and who knows where my my little sidekick is hanging out.
You're using a computer?
Yes, John.
That was an option? Oh, I didn't realize. Mm-hmm. So, Mason, we have to hold up for a second, though.
Mm-hmm.
I need to do nails.
Well, while you're doing that, I can do the plug for our presenting sponsor, Hitch Harness. And we want to thank Tyler Hall for jumping on board with us once again for the 2024 season. It's getting weird to say 2024 instead of 2023, but you go over to hitchharness.com and check out all the products he has. Of course, the signature products he has is a single and double style hitch harness. You can also buy all sorts of other cool stuff, as you can see on the video here. Recommend, too, you get an installation kit if you get one of the Hitch Harness products. And you're probably saying, like, well, I don't need the installation kit. I got all the tools I need. Well, for example, get that rivet gun, because if you're an aspiring crew member, if you got someone wanting to work on a race car, a rivet gun is a perfect option. So that way you have practice during the summer when you have to rebuild your body and put it back on 6 to 12 times. So check out all the products he has on hitchharness.com. And thank you so much, Tyler, for the support of the podcast.
You know, John, right now, these rivet guns are really nice. They keep people from looking from underneath your car. When they start trying to look under, you walk up with your rivet gun and then pap, pap. And then never looking again.
Well, that's also an option too. See, it can serve multiple facets. Awesome. Well, right now we don't have a set lineup in store for us, but we will set our lineup here shortly since we had our test and tune session. John wasn't here for the test and tune session, but a lot of times we don't really need practice to kind of show up and do well, as I found out in bowling the last couple of weeks, and I'm sure John is almost the same way. Maybe he needs a little bit of warm up on certain nights or certain events. But Becca, since you're on the pole for right now, how are you doing?
I'm doing on the pole.
Well, why wouldn't I be on the pole?
I was first to log in.
You technically were, but you had technical issues, so you had to kind of get pushed back into the pits and then come back out.
I'm good. I'm doing pretty good. I can't believe it's almost March already, and racing season will be here before we know it. I can't believe how nice the weather's been lately. I think it's going to be in the 50s and 60s the next couple of days, which is just mind-blowing. But I'm enjoying it because winter's not exactly my favorite thing. So I'm enjoying the warmer weather and hanging outside more and repping my new Track Packers beanie.
Very nice. It's very nice. Even though you said on last episode that it didn't really feel like beanie season, which is kind of funny coming from you.
Why do
This
you
is
listen
true.
to what I say, Mason?
This is very true.
This is my job to pay close attention to what we say, especially when I'm
Anyways,
the chief editor.
I do believe with the warmer weather, I haven't been wearing beanies as often, but just repping the new merch is all.
Yes, we have new merch. We have multiple colors, black, gray, and blue. So if you want a beanie, we have limited supply to start with, so get a hold of us. We already have a couple of takers on beanies, but definitely message the page or get a hold of one of us, and we'll definitely get you supplied, especially for this first part of the season where it's a little bit cooler. John is also repping one of those new TPP beanies. How are you doing, sir? It's been a long time since we've seen you.
I know it has been a busy time frame for me with work stuff, with bowling tournament stuff. I was in Vegas the first week of January. I'm going to be back in Vegas the last week in March. So yes, so it has been a very busy start to 2024 for me. And but it's been fun to go through and see everybody from the bowling world that that we basically kind of all of us congregate over to the tournaments together. So that's been kind of a fun time frame. But I can't believe we're only about 2 months away from race season. And it's been, like Becca said, super nice outside to where it's starting to get the itch to go back to the racetrack and start doing things. So yes, but I have been following racing down south in Florida and some of the Arizona tours, and so yeah, so it's been kind of a fun time over there with all of our stuff.
I've been getting that same itch too, especially with the nicer weather. And now that football season is pretty much done, I still got a little bit of bowling stuff, but now I'm really getting the itch to kind of like fill my weekends back up with racing, kind of see all the racing folks as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Mason, are you bowling state tournament here that's upcoming in your in your neck of the woods?
The plan is to do that. We just need to figure out like if we're going to get a full team together. That's kind of the main thing that's kind of holding that up right now.
Okay, Mason, the registration deadline is next Friday, so you have a week.
Yep. Thank
So,
you. I'm glad I got that reminder.
Chop. Yes, chop.
Yes, especially when it's only like 10 minutes away from where I live. So, Jessup, how are you doing, sir?
I am doing wonderful. All things are good. I'm currently watching a little bit of the practice from Watford City as we speak right now. It looks like a fun little track. Legends are definitely tight for the legends, and I don't think you'll ever hear many people say this, but the legends look pretty big out on this nice, tight little track.
Has there been any carnage?
As of what I've seen so far, this is from 2 hours ago from Spiffy's Racing. Nothing yet, but it looks pretty cool. For those who are going to get to go, it looks like you guys are going to have a fun time.
Yeah, it's really cool that we already have racing in our neck of the woods to kind of scratch that itch a little bit before we kind of get in the bulk of racing season coming up in just a couple of months.
Well,
do you guys remember when they did that? Do you remember when they did that legend race over, what was it, Valley City?
Yep.
Right?
It
was
the North Dakota Winter Show.
Yes.
And then they did one at Jamestown at the convention center.
Yes.
And after speaking with Ivan Saylor about a week ago, he confirmed what I said on our Test and Tune episode, that they have been in the Bismarck Event Center as well.
They were in there, was it for a monster truck show at one point?
Yep.
I feel like it was one of the monster truck shows that they did a expedition race for.
Yep.
Way back in the day. I mean, it was pretty, it hasn't been too recent, but
yeah, it's always good to get them out there and get them racing.
Yeah, especially getting some extra seat time for some of the younger racers too, or the newer racers too. It's always good to kind of get a head start on those things heading before the season as well.
Crap, I forgot to do one of my nails.
Well, while you're doing your nails, I'm doing well myself. I actually got to see a little bit of racing a couple weeks ago when I was down in Florida. I'll kind of touch on that in just a little bit, but otherwise it's been consistent projects, a lot of highlight videos to work on, and hopefully getting some interviews over the next few weeks. And so there's going to be a lot of preseason stuff coming up, and especially if race season is going to start when some tracks are planning to start middle of April. So I'm going to try to accelerate that time frame to get those projects done as much as I can. And so definitely going to be excited for racing coming up, and a lot of the schedules have been released, just waiting on a few more, hopefully in the next couple weeks or so. So if this is your first time tuning in, be sure to give us a like. Be sure to comment if you have any thoughts or any questions for us or anything you want us to discuss on the show. Spotify, Google, and Apple is where you can find us in the podcasting form. And if you're watching us on video, Facebook and YouTube are the places you can find us. And one of the goals this year is for Jessup to read a 5-star review from Apple Podcasts on the show. That should be our goal. Once we get to 1, then we'll go to like 3. Kind of start small and then
remember,
go from
folks,
there.
I thought we had one.
I thought we did too.
We did. It just didn't have any like dialogue with it.
Hold on. Who's it from?
I don't know. I tried to look it up, and
I got this. Ladies and gentlemen, we got our first Apple Podcast 5-star review. And I believe it went something like this, or the intent of the message would have went something like this. You know, those Track Packer podcast people, they're pretty entertaining and knowledgeable. You have the Rain Man, Juan Brocale, and then you have the camera guy. He's known as Mason Aaron's Racing Videos. He's pretty cool. He tries to make sure that everyone stays on task. And then you have Reba, the power walker, and the beanie lady, who's always very insightful and brings a fresh perspective. And then you have the person who kind of like the straw that stirs the drink that brings it all together. Hey, Zoop Yelklep. What?
I think you broke the character limit on the review.
Why? No, you can have almost as many characters as you want.
I'm not sure on that.
No, it's usually limited.
We're looking this up. What is the character limit for
Are you GTSing this?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
On Apple Podcasts.
Well, anyways, before we kind of get into the bulk of the episode, and before as Jessup kind of does its little review,
250. I still have 150 left to talk about myself.
Doubtful. I think the opening sentence itself was probably 220.
I would say I'm very
Why is
concerned.
everyone wearing a hat but me?
Well, because if you wear a hat, you know, and Becca will attest to this, if you wear a hat, your hairline will even thin even more. So you probably should not put anything on it to,
Nathan,
substitute your hair that's left.
I've been hanging out with John too long. We're getting
I mean,
we're getting
there's this
dry
glare on the screen tonight. Just this big glare, and it's not even me this time around.
You know, I think I prefer calling it dry slick, not glare. There's a dry slick spot on the screen.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, sure. We'll go.
I feel like where there's those little strands of hair still left on your head, it's probably just those little pieces of tack that are left.
Yeah,
some drivers would not approve of that.
There's not much left, but it takes the wisdom of a wily veteran driver and podcaster to run the dry slick like I am.
Well, anyways, so before we get started, I wanted to send some quick thoughts and prayers out to the family and friends of Jordan Binstock, who we lost a couple weeks back. Definitely a tough hit on the racing community, especially out in the western part of North Dakota. I know they just had the celebration of life about a week or so back, and going to be honoring him at the awards banquet that's going to be taking place within the next week or so for the Southwest
I think it's
Speedway,
next weekend.
because he was the track championship in the IMCA Sport Mods. So definitely want to send our best wishes to the Binstock family and the racing community out in Dickinson in particular for Jordan Binstock. So before we get officially started with our episode, we have to draw for our starting spots. And people are like, why do you have to draw for starting spots? It really doesn't matter on a podcast. Well, it's like Cruise Line.
This is true. I'm going to win, so it really doesn't matter.
I mean, it's bragging rights.
It's like the first night when you arrive at a racetrack. The first night of the year, you go through the pit shack, you fill out your paperwork that you need for the year for checks and everything for driver information, and then you draw for your starting spot for your heats. So exactly the way it starts for the first one of the year.
Now, remember, folks, at the beginning of the year, everybody is very pleasant and cordial. So remember how we are behaving now, because at the end of the year, it's like knives out. It's all out war.
That's not necessarily true, because there was a couple years back, Jessup, that not everybody looks so cordial and happy. When
this is true.
You sit outside in the sun and you have to check in drivers going through the pit shack. Apparently, you look quite miserable out there when you're sitting in the sun. So
hence,
I mean,
hence the birth of Mr. Miserable.
Yes.
Mason. I'm so
Yes,
sorry.
the birth of Mr. Miserable became at one of the season opening weeks at
COVID
Dakota Speedway.
opening week.
and did you know, Mason? I think we actually have a picture of Mr. Miserable in the pit check.
We do.
So
It's
we'll
a very
insert
iconic
that here.
picture.
Yes, we'll
Very
insert that here.
iconic. Well, let me share my screen so we can actually draw for our positions here. So can you all see the picker wheel we got here?
So I just want to go out there. There will be sponsorship screen opportunities for each one of us. If you want to sponsor a, podcast member there, you certainly can. I mean, much like Ricky Bobby once said, this sticker is it hinders his vision, but he does love him some Fig Newtons, and you can put a sticker over my face if you want, but you have to sponsor it.
Alrighty, perfect. I'm gonna shuffle the numbers first, so it's a little more randomized. Does anyone want to draw for their number first?
Now, can you wait till a certain time frame, because I want to make sure I hit the thing just right.
I think this thing is rigged.
I was gonna
half
say
the drivers come into the pit check and tell me that
Yes.
anyways. So
Who's
I think
drawing
it's
for
rigged.
me? I
Yep.
want
And
Malacca
who's
to
drawing?
draw for me.
I'm gonna say, and who else is hitting the button for me? Because I don't like to hit the button myself, because I never draw a good number. The computer hates me.
Sad part
Wait.
is these are all true instances of what actually happens in the draw shack.
Yes, this is very true. I mean,
So
Mr.
since
Miserable
Becca
does
was
not lie.
last year, let's let Becca go first here. This could be
Yes,
her
I would agree. Becca deserves it. She's the lady of our group.
Okay, your number is getting drawn first, Becca. Low numbers start towards the front. Higher numbers start towards the back.
Oh,
Oh, a 6? Oh, that's rigged.
6.
This is
Okay.
cool.
Should have written it down
this.
somewhere.
I'll take
That's
that.
you. It's you, Mason.
So yeah, then it would probably be me.
It is.
I had that
Because
choice.
Joseph, I think you finished on the pole last year.
Do you want me to shuffle it before I draw again?
No, just draw.
Okay.
The number's out.
We'll see
Swear
what
to God,
happens.
If he gets 2, I'll be upset.
I mean, Becca's got a pretty good number. That's gonna be hard to beat.
Oh, he got a
13?
13.
Okay.
Hey, you're outside pole right now, Mason. Good for
Hey.
you.
This is true.
Look at that. So then it
Okay,
was
so I think
John.
I'm next, right? Yep.
Yep. So I have
John.
6 and 13. I'm in the middle of the pack. That's kind of a nice spot to be. Kind of
It's
middle of the
not-
pack now.
Oh, 9.
9.
Oh, a 9. Mason's now towards the back of the pack.
You're
Yep, I'm starting in the back row.
I am now
Alright.
on the outside of the front row.
All right, Jessup. That leaves
I bet I
you.
start dead last. I have the Marlon Seidler effect of draws.
Shall see. Oh, no.
No. Jessup, you start third.
Ah.
All right.
You know this.
Okay,
They're
I
out to
am-
get me.
Race
I'm very
Director Mason.
concerned.
will
I'm
you
very,
please-
very concerned here. You know why I'm concerned? Because
Why?
Becca's on the pole. Jessup's starting third. We know for a fact that Jessup's just going to push Becca right into the turn, and she's going to just come up and hit me because, she'll try to turn, but she won't be able to turn because of Jessup. So,
Well,
this is rigged.
No,
It's just
hey,
ridiculous.
John. I hear that this year we're transitioning to the no fault rule.
Oh,
so
that's
you gotta
even
keep
better.
going, and
Yes,
if you stop on the track, Becca. It's good.
this is even better.
Now, Race Director Mason, will you please police the cautions this year or in tonight's episode, so that we don't have phantom cautions like we do in NASCAR in the mid 2010s?
Oh,
You
believe
know?
me, there's going to be some policing.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
I know. I actually reviewed the rule book this year and made some valid changes, so it'll be good.
Wait, there's rules.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I-
It's
All
okay,
right.
Jessica. I
Out.
put him in our favor.
I got a big block mouth for my small block ass.
Wow. What a line. What a line. Well, I made the arrangements, so now we have Becca on the pole, followed by John, Jessup, and myself. So this will be our starting lineup for this year, and we'll see how it plays out over the next few episodes and the rest of the season. So with that,
Sponsorship is available, folks. Feel free to sponsor.
right over Jessup's dry, slick face. With that,
Yeah, he
we
needs some help with that.
we will officially start episode 2 of season 3 with the waving or drop of the green flag and get right into who or what are we repping. And Miss Becca, you get to start us off.
All right. So episode 1 of season 3, I wore a hoodie that I found in the grandstands during championship night of Mod Tour. Well, to follow that theme, and this is the last week of that theme, I am wearing a hoodie that I found in the grandstands at Dakota Speedway on the championship night, or the only one and only night of Oktoberfest. So this is something I was late at night, everyone's gone, I was walking up the grandstands and saw this in the grandstands. No one messaged the track looking for their hoodie. Nobody tried to get their hoodie back. So I took it home, and it fits. So I thought I would proudly wear it here tonight. The problem is I don't know who Asbury is. So this is the front, all right? And the crazy thing is not even John recognizes this car. So we don't even know, we don't know who this is. So this is the front, number 56, Asbury. And then this is the back.
I mean, it's a nice looking race car.
Yeah.
Well, there is a.
And
that doesn't.
I tried to look up Asbury on my race pass, and it came up with some guy from Tennessee, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
I don't think a guy from Tennessee, well, it's possible. A guy from Tennessee could have been at Oktoberfest at Dakota Speedway last September, but highly unlikely. Not sure who this is. Mystery driver. So if any of our listeners, if any of our viewers watching on Facebook Live or Facebook or YouTube know who this is, share that info in the comments below.
I actually think it is that Michael Asbury guy.
It is.
What?
Yes, it is. It is Michael.
Crazy.
Michael Asbury is who that is. He's got a very nice looking 56 modified.
Yep.
And so when I clicked on his profile on my race pass, I got this card. And I was like, I don't think that's him. So,
I found his Facebook page, Asbury Racing. It's only got like 46 followers, but like his cover photo is of him in Bristol.
Yeah.
Yep.
Halo Motorsports?
Halo Motorsports, yep.
crazy. Okay, so now we know who our mystery driver is, and that's pretty cool. So I'm repping Michael Asbury tonight.
Nice. That's definitely that's funny that you found so much free swag after the races.
I guess it pays to be the last one in the grandstands that night.
I mean, I kind of do the same thing with hero cards. That's what I did in Ogilvy last year.
And no one messes the track looking for their missing hoodies. So if this is yours, I'd be happy to return it. But if nobody says anything, I guess it's just mine.
There you go. Well, that's a cool way to start. Who or what are we repping? Thanks, Becca. John, who or what are you repping?
Okay, so first of all, once again, I have the Track Packers podcast hat on. Very nice. So thank you, Mason, for that one as well, as the Pelkeys as well. But I'm starting off the season with a little bit of a history lesson again. So this is the Stock Car Stampede, just regular t-shirt from the 2020 Stock Car Stampede, one of just the regular t-shirt designs that they have, not the one with the names on the back or anything else from there directly. But what was special about the 2020 Stock Car Stampede? Besides, it was the COVID year.
2020? Wasn't that the 50th year of it?
No,
Or
it was not the
45th?
50th, it was 49th.
Oh.
Did they do
There was something that
2 shows?
Yes, it was
That was the first year they
of the
did 2
2
shows.
years that they did the 2 shows. So they had 293 cars day 1 and 290 cars day 2. That was a long night though for us when we were on the mic. Speaking from experience, myself and Becca, we were both up there on the announcer stand, and I was battling a slight cold, not COVID, a slight cold that whole week beforehand. And did not actually go to Fergus Falls the week before because the 100 wasn't there, but they ran a big special in its place, and didn't go that year. We stayed home, I was on antibiotics, got better, and everything else. Got over to the Stampede, and I felt my voice going on Friday. Well, by the time Friday night was done, my voice was pretty much gone, and that was before we started at 5 o'clock on Saturday, and ended at like 2:30 in the morning. Yeah, I didn't have a voice at all on Saturday. I know all of us went out to Johnny B's for pizza that day on that Saturday, like afternoon/morning. And I could barely talk. I was like popping cough drops like left and right to try to get a voice. So yeah, so I sounded like I was Kermit the Frog during that the Stampede pretty much that year.
Yeah, that was an exhausting weekend. I remember that.
That was a busy weekend.
I
Super busy
remember,
weekend. Car
yeah.
counts were high. The pits were packed. The
And they
grandstands were packed.
and they closed the concession, so I couldn't even go and buy like another Mountain Dew to like try to keep myself caffeinated and like hyped and just like peppy on the mic because I was drained at 2 a.m. and then we're still racing and
Oh yes.
I'm out of caffeine, I'm out of water. It was a long, long night. A long
Yeah, it
weekend.
was a long night. It was definitely a memorable year overall. I mean, there was a lot of really good racing, a lot of, sometimes even first time Stampede winners within the field that year as well. Some action on the track in several situations and yeah, it was just it was a kind of a remarkable year because partially we weren't even sure if the Stampede was going to happen. And because with COVID restrictions getting tougher towards the beginning of September through the end of September, that was one of those areas to where it's like, is it really going to happen? Is it not going to happen? And then they held the Stampede. The Stampede went off without a hitch. Directly, weather was actually nice that I think that whole weekend, a little bit rainy on Saturday, I think before the races, but it cleared up right before race time.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, it was just a busy weekend overall. They held the 2-day show again in 2021, and then they wanted to bring in the stock cars for the show. So they brought in the IMCA stock cars, but there's no way they could have done two shows. So they went back to the one show over 2-day format, which has been the case for the last 2 years, likely going to be the case, obviously, for 2024 too. That's still being worked out though for sure with some of those details. But yeah, so that'll be a lot of fun. Again, as we get to into the September of 2024 timeframe, and kick off the 2024 season here in April.
Yep, definitely remember that. Yeah, I remember going home and I slept for like 4 hours even after I slept overnight in Jamestown. I was that exhausted. It's definitely a crazy year. That's an awesome shirt to rep, John. Jessup, what are you repping?
Well, I'm repping a free shirt that I picked up at Mason's, as my dog is snoring now. This is the 36th annual Wasota 100 at the I-94 Speedway. It's very nice, very clean. Yeah, I like it. Thanks, Mason.
No problem. And it's a track you've been to, but you haven't seen a race there yet.
Yep.
We'll get you there at some point.
Someday.
Someday.
Probably not a Friday, but someday.
Well, they have plenty of stuff, I think, that's not on a Friday, so we could probably get you over there for... Actually, I think they have Road of Outlaws again, I think, which is on the Saturday.
I think yes, because they have Friday they're in Grand Forks. We are actually just talking about this. Friday they're in Grand Forks, and then Saturday they are in Fergus.
Yeah, so that could be an opportunity. And they put on a really good show at Fergus Falls.
They did. It was a lot of fun last year to go to that show.
Well, as long as the one pit reporter tells the track crew to redo the whole track, they will have a good track for racing.
Well, this is a very good point. I mean, it did turn out to be a good race, but there was a long, long intermission.
Yeah, that pit reporter, she could have kept her mouth shut.
Tell her, John. Tell her.
We need to hear from her.
Well, cool shirt, Jessup. I'll finish it off with what I'm repping. I'm going to try to rep a different koozie for each episode because I found a stash of koozies. So this is Team Ramrod. So this was a trio of hobby stock racers up in northern North Dakota. Tyler Lucy, the 15L, Zach Lutz in 83, and Reese Bignan in the 144. They all have been in a state of like retirement, but I know Reese is coming back this year. He'll be racing once again, so it'll be cool to see Reese back out on the track. And they're all really quick racers, really competitive, and they were fun to watch. And they went by Team Ramrod. I don't know how they came up with that name, but if you know them, it probably fits. But Hat, of course, Sheldon Hansfield, who actually won it down in Florida, where I got to see him at Volusia Speedway. And then for the shirt, I'm repping the East Bay Raceway Park. Considering it's going to be closing here at the end of 2024, I figure I'd have to get a shirt in memory of visiting that speedway. And it's a very cool facility, very, very fun track to watch racing at. I got to see the Lucas Oil 8 models there, and they put on a really good show. And there was hardly a place to sit the entire week. And even when I got there late, it was basically bottom 2 rows were open and you got sprayed with dust and dirt. So definitely
Wait a second. You got there late?
Oh, yes.
I
Yes.
would never guess that.
And there's not much I could do with that because I flew in at 3:30 and then traffic from Orlando to Tampa on a Friday afternoon is horrible. It is not fun.
And you got pelted with dirt at a dirt track?
Yes. What's the caution for, Mr. John Breckle?
Jessup, get your caution flag out too. So now Mason said there was nothing that he could do. This is not
true.
necessarily true because Mason could have probably planned his flights a little bit.
Oh, this is true. John brings up a valid point.
Yep, you could have planned your flights a little bit better so you didn't fly in during rush hour, and then get there on time.
Well, first caution of the year goes to Mason. Unfortunately, Mason's already at the back of the pack.
I guess I'll take the caution because he does have a point. I probably could have planned that out a little bit better, but it was definitely the cheapest way to do it, the way I did it. So I'm not too
looking at cost efficiency other than time efficiency, Mason.
Hey, I got to see the main feature. I got to see the last chance races, so I got the good bulk of it. I will say East Bay and Volusia. I mean, Volusia's got a little bit better parking situation, but East Bay, the parking situation is like if you don't get there early, you're walking at least a good half mile to the track from wherever you park.
Well, it's what's a good thing though, Mason? We're not going to have to worry about that much longer.
No, unfortunately, but it sucks though because that's a really cool venue.
Yep.
I'll talk a little bit more about it in just a little bit, but yeah, I definitely had to get a shirt to kind of for the occasion, especially. So that is who or what we're repping. We do have a little bonus segment that thanks to Jessup for acquiring some cool stuff over the off season. I want to give a shout out to Isaac Hot Sauce Sondrol because he's a big history buff, and so we're going to kind of go down memory lane a little bit with these. Definitely want to thank Isaac for supporting us this year as well. He is in the midst of Class B basketball, and if you are on Facebook, you've probably seen the movement of Isaac Sondrol across the Facebook waves, and so definitely give him some support as he coaches the Vela Aggies in the regional tournament, or regional games, I should say. And so thank you so much, Isaac, for supporting us on the podcast. I saw a sneak peek of his car, and let's just say it looks a little different this year.
Nice.
Yep.
Now, Mason, should we call this the Hot Sauce Hot Memory Rewind?
That works for me.
Like that?
I do like that.
Yep. Mason, do you want me to send or scan these photos to you so that it's not just Jessup with a glare on the middle of the photo as he shows it up to his screen?
Sure.
That actually would be a good idea because the glare from his head is going to cause the picture to be blurry.
John beat me to that comment, but yes, I do think that's a great idea.
Yep.
Now, John, you got to name the driver and the year that this photo was taken.
The year too?
Well, I have to name the year.
We got to make it hard for the Rain Man.
He has high standards. He's that good.
We got 2 photos tonight because John's already seen this one.
Oh.
All right. The first one is going to be this guy right here.
Which is Eric Moss. I would say 1994.
All right. The Eric Moss, 1994. The second one.
Ooh, is that Al Malsum?
And what year?
95.
Well, tonight John is 1 for 4. We'll start with the first one. The first one is Rick Auckland. And this is from 1995. And this car I actually did see. He won the Silver 1000 and Proctor with this one. He held off a hard-charging Jimmy Mars on a restart to take the overall win. And this one, you got the year right. It is 1995, but it is Kevin Thompson.
Oh.
All right. So.
And where's Kevin from? Because I don't recognize him directly from a late model perspective.
Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Really?
Oh, I did not know that.
And Rick Auckland is from, and according to the photo, Fargo, North Dakota.
Yeah.
Do you want to give a shout out to the person that gave you all those photos and all that history?
Yes, I do. Big shout out to Kurt Klein. Kurt has been huge in helping the racing scene in the Bismarck Mandan area. He's done a lot of photo works with late models and super stocks. He's also helped with the history of the Mandan Bismarck racing area, and especially with the current stock car club and the Hall of Fame. He's literally compiled almost every piece of racing information and photo from our area into a really cool document that can be found on the site.
Nice. That's a lot of cool stuff.
So if any other people have old photos, I'm also I wouldn't say astute, but I enjoy a lot of history within racing, whether it be from the Minnesota area or the North Dakota area or just the tours in general. If you have any other photos that you can verify the year and the driver, and you want us to try to stump John, send it in over to Mason on Facebook or to myself, Rebecca, on Facebook, and we can see if we can outsmart our very own Rain Man.
Did you know, speaking of Kevin Thompson, I found that picture of his car, not that exact picture, but I found a picture of his car from the 1995 page for Brown County. He was down there in 1995 as well for one of their races. I went to J.R. Hughes' site, the Western Wanderer, and found a picture of that car.
Nice.
Wow.
Now John's gonna be doing research for these now. We're never gonna be able to stump him.
Yeah, you fool me once, shame on me, but you fool me twice, you know.
Well, he's got bowling and work going on right now, so he might not have as much free time, but as it gets further and further into the spring, yeah, he'll probably be brushing up on some more knowledge. So
we did actually, it was kind of funny. Mason and I one night, and Becca and Jessup were on here too, was after one of our podcasts. And we went on to Mike Ornis's page. And Mike was uploading a lot of photos from like the 2000, maybe 3, 4, 5 era for racing photos. We're going through all the drivers' pages and everything else for the photos that he got uploaded. And it was a very, very fun time for flashbacks, because that was the time frame to where I would say for me personally, from about that 2000 to maybe like 2006 timeframe, I was really getting involved in the racing side for like paint schemes and drivers and new cars. I mean, I did back in the 90s too, but definitely knew it more in the 2000 era. So it was like, yeah, Mason and I were quizzing each other on who was who.
Yeah, John got a lot of them. I realized that I'm not very well versed, especially in like super stocks when they were in North Dakota. I don't know hardly anyone in that class. So definitely a learning experience for me too. And so definitely looking forward to seeing more of those photos throughout the future episodes, and really cool of Kurt Klein to donate that to Jessup and us for us to kind of look through and flashback. So as you can see,
look at the you know,
one
amount of photos Jessup has.
One of 5 boxes.
That's nuts.
Yeah. So
where are we gonna store all this?
We're just gonna put this away, and we'll pull out another year of photos here next time.
Nice.
Thank you, Isaac.
Thank you, Isaac, for supporting us and being the sponsor of that segment. Just a small little track pack report from my time in Florida. I know, did any of you watch the dirt track racing in Florida, whether it was East Bay Nationals or
I watched the highlights. I watched the World of Outlaw highlights and the Lucas Oil highlights that were from Flow that got posted to Facebook, because I wasn't able to watch the actual races themselves, just from, you know, being out of town and also then on the weekdays still being at the office. But I watched the highlight videos, and there was a lot of moving and shaking within those fields. I mean, from the World of Outlaw sprints to the Lucas Oil late models to the World of Outlaw late models, there was a lot of passing in a lot of these shows. And the interesting part about, I think, the Florida Speedweek side of it, especially from the, you know, Dirt Car Nationals piece of it, is that you never knew what was going to happen on any night. And what I mean by that is that you typically had a couple drivers that might have been kind of, you know, in the mix each and every night. But but you had a lot of surprise faces that were towards the front in each night. But you also had a lot of your big names that had to take provisionals to either get in the field or they started deep in the field after coming from a consi. So there was a lot of passing that happened on each one of those nights. And I think even a lot of mechanical problems. You know, I was following like Ricky Thornton a lot on Facebook during the Speed Weeks, and I don't know how many motors he broke when he was down in Florida. He broke a ton of motors and everything else. So yeah, there was a lot of carnage and mechanical problems, it sounded like. But you know, that's typical for the beginning of the year. Beginning of the year, I feel like you always have to work out the bugs until you get into the heart of the race season towards the summer months.
Well, the first thing I noticed when I went to East Bay, because I went to East Bay first and then Volusia, was like watching East Bay on TV, the track looks super flat. But like being there, it looks a little bit, it's more banked than people probably think. I would say if you've ever been in the Red River Valley Speedway, it's probably a little more banked, honestly, than Red River Valley Speedway, because when I was walking the track and it was multiple groups racing, and so like people were running the high side, people were running on the bottom, and so definitely multiple lanes to choose from, and it definitely looks way different in person rather than being flat. And so that was one of the first things I noticed. I know that night we had some mechanical troubles for one of the leaders because Tyler Erb was having a really good week down there, and he was leading the majority of that race and then broke, and so that opened the door for Superman Jonathan Davenport to win that race. And so definitely a fun race to watch, and because he held off a hard charging Edson O'Neill for that win. And then going over to Volusia the next week for World of Outlaw sprint cars this time, because the Pelkey's and I got to see World of Outlaw late models there last year. And I was really looking forward to watching sprint cars on a half mile, because I think sprint cars, just watching the raw speed, especially on a half mile, is just freaking awesome. But again, there wasn't a place to sit. I think they said it was the largest crowd that they've ever had at Volusia. So like, I'm glad for like a World of Outlaws. Typically, this is what I do for World of Outlaws. I'd actually recommend this to anyone. Just buy a pit pass. Like that way you can kind of roam around in the pits. You can kind of like see what the drivers are doing throughout the entire night. And then you can kind of sit in the pit stands if they have pit stands. And thankfully Volusia had pit stands, because that was the only place you could really find to sit. And so it was definitely a fun experience.
Zone.
What's that?
You were in the danger zone.
It didn't matter where you sat. I was at the top of the stands.
No,
and I was in the
you were technically in the danger zone. They've had a lot of cars flip over there.
Yeah, that's
coming out of 2.
We witnessed a nasty wreck.
We watched one, and then a couple days before Becca and I witnessed one.
Joey Saldana also.
Saldana launched one over the. I think it went over the bleachers itself too, or it went back behind the bleachers. So you're living life on the edge, Mason.
But to Mason's point, though, every time I have gone to a World of Outlaw show, I've usually just gotten the pit pass, because it's typically $5, maybe $10 or $15 more than the grandstands. And yeah, you can walk into the pits at any time during the night and just go meet the drivers, chat with them, pick up hero cards, whatever. And then if you want to sit in the grandstands, you sure could, but you can always just hang out in the pits. So I've always just done the pit passes when I've gone to the World of Outlaws, and I would recommend that as well.
This makes sense on why some of the drivers struggle, because Mason was too busy trying to get hero cards.
That wasn't my main focus, because I knew since it was like the first weekend, I'm like, not many people would have them. So I'm like, we'll just let that be. So I just tried to talk with as many people as I knew, because they had modifieds there too. So I was talking with Ryan Gerke and Joseph Thomas for a little bit, and then got to talk with the Nichols. They kind of help out Donnie Schatz, and so I was talking with them for a little bit. And so it was fun to run into some of those familiar faces from up north. But the guy I'm repping, Sean Hodgshield, ended up winning that. And like John mentioned, there's a lot of drivers that kind of had an up and down week. Sheldon was one of them, because he looked out to lunch to start the week in Volusia.
He did.
Because I think didn't he have to take a provisional?
Yes. Yep. He had to at least take one provisional during that week. And then I think, did they have 45-ish sprints, I think, throughout the week? 40 to 45 somewhere throughout the whole entire week down there for the World of Outlaws. And yeah, there was a lot of people that had to come through the consi each and every night that were Outlaw regulars. So yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah. So
that was mods. And then Mason, when you watch the mods were, what do they have? 113 to 115 mods?
It was a lot. As one would say, there was a lot of mods.
As Jessup would say, there was a lot of cars.
Yeah, it was It was insane. And like that night, because like before they would just basically do, I think they would do like qualifying and then set it up with like 6 qualifying features. And
6
then like
qualifying features, yep.
Yeah, and they would accumulate points up until the last night, which was that Saturday night. And then they did last chance races where the top 2 from each would transfer, and then they had like 2 or 3 provisionals. And so they had like 33 or 35 start that main event, and it was a wreck fest. It was a caution fest. Like I think it was like a 30 lap race, and like they were 12 laps in, like half the field was gone. And I was like, oh gosh. It's like you're coming off of the sprint cars that have just put on this great show, and then all of a sudden you're just going like caution, caution, caution. It's like slow going, but it was still a good race because Kyle Strickler came from 17th, I want to say, past Dustin Sorensen with like 2 or 3 to go and ended up winning. So definitely a lot of passing and a lot of carnage at the same time. And so yeah, that was kind of my little weekend in Florida. I ran a half marathon that Sunday, and kind of wish I was able to stay the entire week for the rest of Speedweeks, but it's all right. Got a little bit of Florida experience in Florida racing and got to see a couple or one new facility, and then back to Volusia again. Definitely recommend checking out Volusia. It's a really cool facility, really fun place to watch racing.
And Mason, I have to build on this really quick.
Mhm.
It would have been nice for you to stay down in Florida for the next week, especially for that Saturday, Sunday time frame, because then there would have truly been a reason why it rained out.
Yes, exactly. You can't totally blame me, although I've kind of embraced kind of being the heel of weather at racing events. And so if you want to blame me for the whole NASCAR shenanigans the following week, feel free to do so. Because it didn't rain a drop the week I was there, or the weekend I was there. But anyways,
so what happened? I can explain what happened, John.
Yes.
You see, Mason had such a short time. The weather from up here was traveling down to get to Mason. And by the time it got there, Mason had already flew away.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and Mason had probably some not so great times during the weekend down there, because obviously he got to the racetrack late, was stuck in traffic, didn't plan really well. So he was kind of probably in maybe a little bit more of a somber mood. So that just probably brought the clouds in for the next week, and you know, well, they had to release it sometime.
You might be onto something. Usually when Mason goes to a racetrack, the weather delays allow him to get there on time.
This is true. This is very true. Yep, he's at least able to see almost all the action.
That was definitely not the case on Friday night. Would have been nice, but no, definitely showed up late. But anyways, we'll kind of get into a little bit of NASCAR, because I know all of us watched at least some capacity of the NASCAR weekend down in Daytona. So what would you say was the main thing you kind of took away from weekend in Daytona? Becca, do you want to start?
Watch the truck race. It was like the race that would never end. They had 12 cautions. Then obviously it was the rain out Saturday, Sunday, and then didn't realize blonde moment here. I saw it advertised 4:00 on Monday. So in my mind, all day I was like, oh, the race doesn't start till 4. And Jess was like, we have to hurry home, because we were out and about doing errands on Monday. We have to hurry home. Because we were going to meet up with friends and watch the 500 together. And didn't realize it started at 3. Whoops.
Who was dragging their feet?
You wanted to stop at Walmart. Not my fault.
Yeah, I was ready to go home, and you're like, no, one more thing.
I need to go down this other aisle.
And I was like, the race, and she's like, what's going on? And I'm like,
no, I grabbed
10 minutes ago.
One thing at Walmart, and then here you are walking down the candy aisle, because Valentine's Day had just passed, and he wanted all the discount chocolate. So he's walking down aisle after aisle, picking out all. Oh,
this makes more sense now.
Look at this. Oh, shoot. Hang on.
I have a quick question.
What is this on our table? He picked up all of this discount candy. And I'm like, can we hurry up? The race is about to start. So
I mean, at least just if you were being a good husband, you were buying your wife some chocolates.
I was, and she wouldn't even eat them.
I don't like chocolate.
I have to eat it now.
Oh, darn.
I know. I'm the victim here.
I had a blonde moment. Didn't realize the race started at 4. We were running errands at 3:00. Had to rush home. and then pick up golf clubs because Jessup and I had golf league, but then we're also meeting friends to watch the 500. I thought the 500 was better than last year because we were at last year's race, but I also kind of thought it was a little bit lackluster until the very end. But great racing, more exciting than last year. I'm kind of glad we weren't at the 500 because I didn't realize last year or the previous years that they've been saving fuel, so they were purposely running slower. Didn't realize that was a thing last year or the prior years, but I'm kind of glad we weren't there to see that and take that all in. Because
see, I would have been curious to see what it would have looked like from the stands, though.
I don't think you would have noticed it, Mason. I don't think you would have noticed it.
I think you might have though, because Allmendinger was catching the pack. So I think you would have saw that he was getting closer.
Well,
So
maybe.
They brought that up on NASCAR radio today.
So
the morning drive.
I thought
seconds faster each lap for
I do
for a
love
good,
the morning
like
drive
5-10
on
laps.
Radio. I thought the race was better than the year before, but I thought it was a little bit lackluster. And then got home because I had golf league. Where's it volleyball? I forget what I had. And then volleyball, 6:30 because I actually missed the end of the race.
Ooh, you missed when all the action happened.
Yeah, but don't worry, it's on YouTube, and I actually watched it today at work because.
Wait, you work?
Yeah, I work sometimes.
Or do you watch videos at work?
I work and I listen to the race in the background. And then so I actually listened to the race at work. Because the bar we were at, it didn't have the audio, so we were just watching like the static images on the TV. And then I got home after volleyball, watched the Xfinity race, which was another race that just would never end.
I thought you were at golf.
I was at golf.
Jessup had golf. I had volleyball.
Just about golf, and you had volleyball.
We had to run home. We had to run home to pick up his golf clubs. I had to run home to pick up my shoes, and then we met up with friends at a bar, had some dinner with them, and then I had to leave early for volleyball because we had volleyball at 6:30. So,
yeah. So I mean, it was definitely a full day of racing. Kind of a lot happening in kind of a short amount of time. Jessup, did you have any big takeaways from the 500 weekend?
You know, I think The Rock missed a true opportunity. Because, you know, he goes, his catch, when he starts talking, he goes, for the millions. And he could have done that. But I thought he was pretty good. I wish he would have just said, for the millions of NASCAR fans. And The Rock means millions. That would have been really cool. But I thought that was fun having The Rock there. It was cool that he actually stayed the extra day. Because DJ Khaled, who I believe, doesn't he live in Florida?
Yes.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, he lives in Florida. What the hell are you doing on a Monday that you can't perform before the race? Bye,
Maybe
Felicia.
Had prior events.
Bye, Felicia. I was not impressed with his lack of presence, but anyways, I thought the racing was fine. I mean, I'm a pretty happy-go-lucky when watching NASCAR, and it's like, all right, they're racing. It's good to have racing back. I don't worry about their number placements or the stage stops, or I just sit there and laugh. Just sit and laugh and watch the cars go around. And when Ryan Blaney wrecked, it made me laugh.
Are you trying to poke the bears?
Yeah, I am. As Mason's.
Just have already got my wrath the last week, and so.
Oh yeah. I got a full lecturing about how NASCAR's coming to an end, and
I never said it was coming to an end. I just think it could be a lot better.
Everything could be a lot better, but we also got to remember, you know, myself included, not everything in the past was as rosy and as good as we believe it to be. I mean,
I find out this is true in some areas. Yes,
we see things through rose-tinted glasses from time to time. I myself, I mean, I like watching older racing, such as and demo derbies and monster truck stuff from the past, and then I sit there and like, you know, maybe it wasn't as good as I remembered it as a kid, but I think the product's pretty good right now, and I thought the racing was pretty good. I didn't actually get to see the last caution, which ended the race, but yeah, we got racing back, and that's good.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was better racing overall than last year at the 500, even being there in person, because I thought there was way more three wide racing like throughout different parts of the race. And so,
Well, that's because they're all going slower.
Well, that's true too. Like I said, I would have been really interested to see that in person, what that would have looked like. Because I think I said on TV it was like 4 to 5 seconds slower than what they could be running.
So let me ask you this, John and Mason and Becca. You have the option of seeing them drive wide open and have less side-by-side racing, or would you rather see them race 4 to 5 seconds slower and be side-by-side, but not actually fully racing besides this fuel-saving methods?
I want to go back to 2004 and 2005 where they raced wide open, 3 wide, 4 wide even sometimes, and it was exciting.
So you want to go back?
I'm currently watching.
Cool.
I'm currently watching the 2005 season right now of NASCAR, and they're at Talladega, and it was fantastic.
Where are you?
Talladega was really good in 2005. Yeah, 2005 was really good for Talladega.
I mean, I listened to it at work.
Oh, when you're working.
Yeah.
I think like I'd rather let them run wide open because like it gives the opportunity, especially if you have a really fast car and you're able to maneuver through the traffic, it allows you to kind of like move your way towards the front, which I think they're like some drivers were kind of having difficulty trying to like, especially when they're saving fuel, kind of was like, all right, if I pull out, you're pretty much just going straight to the back because no one's going to go out with you. You're just kind of like staying tight in this pack for 4 or 5 seconds off the pace. And it's like, all right, I guess we're just going to sit here for a while.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, honestly, this year around from the 500 perspective, I was actually entertained for the 500. In years past, I haven't really been super entertained from the 500. And I don't know if it was just because maybe it was how they got, and it's not so much getting strung out because I don't mind actually when they get strung out. But what I do mind is I hate how at the end of the stages, it seems like, especially in the 500 in general, the last maybe several years, when they race back to get stage points for the, before the caution comes out, which I'm not a huge fan of anyhow. But I feel like it was always a wreck fest. It always turned into having a wreck up front. So you took out numerous contenders for the win during that period of time. And then the field just kept getting smaller and smaller, which is another thing that I'm not a fan of NASCAR. Obviously, they don't have the car count now with what they used to have, but our 40 car fields that we have nowadays for the 500, which used to be 43 car fields, and then also the matter of all the team charters, which is another area that I'm not a big fan of. But going through and looking at all that stuff, this year's at 500, even though they were running slower, I was kind of entertained by it as a whole because some of the drivers wanted to go forward, but everybody kind of was in that conservative mode until they finally like went again. So they're running, conservative for the fuel saving, and all of a sudden it's like the next lap it was like boom. So they started going again, and then I think what was it, the top 4 drivers just like pulled away from the pack, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, we got to catch back up. So everybody caught back up to that. But the race itself was pretty entertaining, especially after the stage break. After the stage break was really interesting after stage 2, because with about 60 laps to go, you could definitely tell there was not a whole lot of conservative mode going anymore for like fuel saving. Because there was a ton of people trying to get to the front to position themselves before the final pit stop. And then the final pit stop happened, and there was a lot of drivers that actually fell back in the pack during that final pit stop that tried to work their way back up to the front. So I was super entertained in about the last 30 laps because there was a lot of moving and shaking. Plus, there really wasn't that the big one until the end of the race, towards the end of the race. So the good news is that the field kind of stayed together, kind of the whole race too, which is something that maybe has not happened, in a couple of years either. I feel like there was always like, oh, you've got maybe 20 drivers on the lead lap, to where this year it was like 33 or 34 when they were going down to, after the final stage break. So overall, the 500 was entertaining. It was very interesting to watch the perceptions of the drivers a little bit, especially like Austin Cindric. I just think it's hilarious that he was teed off at Corey Lord Joy when it was, Ross Chastain that came across his front bumper and they both spun. So, but yet it's Corey Lord Joy's fault. So, yeah, I mean, Cindric has never wrecked anybody in his life. So coming across and doing that stuff was very entertaining to see. But no, I thought the race was pretty entertaining. The fuel saving stuff was very interesting, but the strategy calls were very entertaining throughout that race too. I thought that kind of was a different element to the 500 this year than what has been in previous years.
Well, and I agree with a lot of that too. I think it was, like you said, it was more entertaining. I think definitely sucks not having a green flag finish, but that's kind of the way those races go. I did get to watch basically the last half of the Xfinity race. I was actually really entertained by that too. I think just because like there's a lot less experience, and so there's not all that mindset to kind of be conservative. They kind of just go like full on throughout the entirety of the race, and so very entertaining to watch. That was a lot of cautions, like Becca mentioned. But overall, I was very entertained with that race as well. I really love the Xfinity series. I think it's really cool. They have really good racing pretty much anywhere they go.
Yeah, I would agree with Becca's assessment for Friday. Friday, I was actually disappointed in the truck race. I actually enjoyed the truck race at Daytona a lot. Was pretty disappointed last year when it obviously got rained out. With because they run maybe 5 laps and then ran again, and then they run another 5 laps and then ran again. So it was caution after caution. But this year, I felt like I don't know if it was just nobody knew how to drive this year or anything else, but it was just caution after caution after caution after caution, and it wasn't even phantom cautions. It was people just wrecking randomly. So that part was just kind of frustrating to me a little bit because that truck race is usually one of the best races of the weekend at Daytona. And then the Xfinity race, I was kind of in the same boat. I like the Xfinity series as well, but I was disappointed in a lot of the driving during the Xfinity series this weekend. And it wasn't even so much the driving from the rookies. It was the driving from the veterans of that series. I felt like they were driving over their head and were basically the rookies of the field. I'm like, it's like they didn't even know how to, drive down a straightaway, much less, go through the turn. So that part I kind of was shaking my head on some of those moments. But no, overall, I thought the Xfinity race was not too bad either. But the truck race was definitely disappointing because I felt like that race could have been a really great race, and the multiple wrecks just did not help that.
Also, wild finish in all of those races. A lot of drivers who you probably wouldn't have expected finish in the top 10. And I'm going to put this out there for our listeners and our viewers. The Track Packers podcast, Fantasy Racing for NASCAR, kicked off at the Daytona 500, but because of the wild finish in the 500, not a lot of points were scored in week 1. So if you by chance forgot to make picks for the 500 because if you were like last year's champion Shea Helling and didn't see the Facebook post where Mason's like, hey, picks are open, go make your picks for the 500. The scores weren't very good for week 1. If you missed week 1 or want to join a week late, you sure could, because the scores are pretty darn low.
Let's just say if you pick the winner this week at Atlanta, you've already scored more points than me.
Mason, how many points did you score?
I scored 50, and that is with stage points, 5 guys, and the bonus picks. Yeah. Not good. I'm not expecting this week to be better for me.
So if anyone out there missed week 1 or forgot to make picks, by all means, hop on in. There's plenty of opportunity for you to catch Mason.
Yes. Once we get away from these super speedways, I will hopefully get back onto a good streak here. Yeah, so overall it was a pretty entertaining weekend in Daytona. Definitely would love to be back down there for another 500 weekend. Maybe go to more than one race on the big super speedway, but we'll see what the future plays out and how things will progress for the start of the rest of the NASCAR season. So one of our next segments, we want to give a shout out to the real deal, Brody Carlsrud. Thanks for joining us, bud, on the podcast. You can check out his podcast, The Real Deal with B1. He's already got a few episodes out. I was actually on his show this last week, and so helping him get that started and get things kicked off. Basically just talking about his racing and the racing around the region and the country. So definitely go over and give him some support on Facebook, Spotify, and Apple. So thank you so much, Brody, for joining us on the podcast. And so our next segment because there's been a lot of scheduled stuff going out, and so can I call it the real deal? What's the real deal that you're kind of looking at? Anything that you kind of want to like highlight a little bit more, kind of give a little spotlight to, whether it's schedules or anything else from like this past weekend of racing and NASCAR, whatever it may be?
Well, if we're looking for local racing and the real deal, Watford City is having their, I think, was it Bakken Bash beatdown?
I think it's Bakken Shootout.
Bakken Shootout.
Yep.
Interesting name, but they've already got cars out on the track. When I say cars, legends, karts. Today was their practice day, and tomorrow's the big show, so it should be pretty exciting. So that's pretty cool. The other one I would say is next week. Park Jefferson's going to be racing in March 3rd. They really should have raced this week. How amazing would that be? We're racing in February.
In the upper Midwest, that would be pretty
Yeah.
pretty crazy. By the way, that Bakken Shootout, the event is on my race pass, so you'll kind of be able to kind of check in to see who's all showing up there.
Well, that'll be kind of fun to see.
Maybe get first dibs of fantasy racing as well. Which that could be an ultimate wild card, because I mean I haven't looked to see like any of the practice from tonight, but I'm sure it's definitely probably a little different. So definitely check that out. I believe Darn TV is actually streaming that. So definitely an opportunity to check that out and support a lot of the legends, karts, and slingshots. Slingshots are also there as well for that event. Anything else for the real deal? John, Becca, do you have something that that kind of sticks out to you right now?
Well, I am super excited for the return of the Westsoda late models to come back to Dakota Speedway in 2024. This will be the first time Westsoda late models have been back to the track since 2016. So it's been quite a dry spell since we've last seen them at the Dakota Speedway. And we're going to have 2 full shows for the Westsoda late models. Myself and board member Tim Pittenger have done a lot of reaching out to local and Midwest drivers to pique interest and get their interest for coming to the event. And there's been already a lot of excitement for late models returning to Dakota Speedway. So I think it's going to be a great show at the end of July. Definitely don't want to miss that at the North Dakota Governor's Cup at Dakota Speedway. And then Dead Horse Speedway up in Canada just released their schedule. And I thought it was pretty interesting as well. Sorry, Dead Horse Creek Speedway in Morden, Manitoba, released their schedule earlier this week. And they are doing what Estevan Motor Speedway did a few years back during the peak of COVID, and that is doing double headers for their racing season. So they're going to race 6 times for 3 weekends. So basically double headers, the first being in May, the next being in July, and the last being in August. And I think that's a really neat concept to get drivers to travel across the border and come race with them. I love their social media right now. I think it's very catchy and entertaining. And so whatever they're doing, keep it up. And I hope to see lots of cars at Dead Horse Creek Speedway.
Absolutely.
In
Yeah.
2024.
I agree. It's been fun to follow their social media. They've been doing a lot of great promoting up there, and I would love to get up there. I know they typically when it was before it was like ALH Speedway, I think they raced on Sundays, so it would have been very difficult to get over there, but it might be nice to get over there for one of the nights of the double headers this year, and definitely recommend checking out that track. They've done a lot of good work up there and continually adding improvements. So
I'm excited for a few of the double headers throughout this year. So I feel like some tracks are starting with double headers, which would be kind of nice to see because drivers can come out, test their cars, and have a 2-day show instead of having just a 1-day show to run, especially since a lot of tracks aren't going to be up and running a lot of times during those 2-day shows. We'll have it to where, at the beginning of the season, they can kind of come and relax and spend the weekend and test out their cars and see how everything is running before maybe their home track starts with points or anything else from there. For the season to get underway. The other thing too is that we do have some big specials coming up here very soon. Humboldt is coming up again here very soon down in Kansas with their Midwest Modified show and their King of America show as well for the USMTS mods. The hunt actually just started here tonight for the USMTS mods as their first show of the season, which they had 49 modifieds that checked in for that one. So that was a really good car count again for them. Also super excited to see some of the big shows this year across our region. Mississippi Thunder obviously has that huge modified show. That'll be fun to see, as it'll be kind of, a lot of the national touring guys against the local guys, because we have a ton of local talent up here that'll be running that show. The same thing even occurs, with a lot of the sprint car shows this year too. There's a lot of sprint car and late model shows across the board, and especially with some of the big shows that are happening down in Houston. Houston has some big month of money shows again, that are happening for not just the World of Outlaws, but also for several other series. So that'll be kind of neat to see this year as well. But no, I'm excited for those. I'm excited to see how the season starts out, how it starts progressing. I do know I've talked to several drivers this year, just seeing them in passing, and those drivers that were in passing, they are a lot farther along with their cars than what they typically are this time of the year, because just I think with the nicer weather, it has people more at the itch to get things done. So that part's pretty cool to see this year as well. And that leads me to the next segment, to where I'm excited to see some of the paint schemes that are getting released. So it's kind of that start of the year that paint schemes are starting to get released, and a lot of fun is starting to happen to see who has a brand new look for 2024, which is kind of exciting.
Yeah, definitely a lot of great events coming up around our region. I feel like there's a little bit more sprinkling of like the national series, a few of the tracks in the region. So definitely a opportunity for fans to get their fix of the national touring series throughout the Midwest. So kind of getting a peek into like the way I kind of look at the schedule. And so I kind of like, because I follow a couple of tours, and so I kind of formulate my schedule around that. But then I look at like the beginning of the season, the end of the season, kind of see like, how can I get to certain tracks that I may not be able to get to throughout the middle part of the season. So looking forward to the beginning part, especially because I'll probably be out in like western North Dakota a little bit more to start the year. I'm hoping that like the weather cooperates, so we're able to kind of get things rolling a little bit more, giving me more opportunity to kind of get out west, like at Dickinson. I haven't been to Dickinson since I think 2020. That's one of the tracks I want to get out to this year. And so
was that the year that we all went out there? And
yes,
yep, season
we
opener.
ran the track.
Yes. Yeah, I think
that was
the
one of
last
the
time I was
quickest
there.
programs they've ever had.
Well, let's back up though really quick, because I think, Mason, if I'm not mistaken, we were there twice that year, right? We were there.
You guys were there 3 times.
Yes.
Didn't
you were there
disc
twice.
golfing?
We were there 3 times because we were there for the opener. Remember when it happened with helping out the track get up and running, and then Mason, we went back for the double header show that was with the late models over the July 4th time frame, and Mason brought the rain and hail the first night.
We also met his family that night.
Yes, we did. They were to our right. We were driving into the track. And then the second night, Mason and I went back, and he had the rain there again.
It was just hovering off to the southwest.
Let's just say I got off the grandstands and walked into the pit side because it literally was lightning right outside of the grandstand.
And I think didn't you miss like the very end of the race because of that?
No, I stood next to the Gartner. I was right next to the Gartners that last race, because the stock cars were the last race of the night, and I was standing right next to the Gartners by the snack shack in the pits. So I watched the rest of it.
Buddy.
We got through the full race program,
and then I got my butt to the car because it was like going to downpour.
I do remember.
And everybody knows
I believe
when it downpours, you get stuck.
I think didn't Jessup and I and you didn't we go to like one of the barbecue places in Dickinson or something like that?
Yes, we went there the night that it
saw
rained
all
out,
the
and
racers.
Yes, and then we got to see Jessup's just brilliant frothing skills.
Yeah.
He's really good, actually. You mean John's
really good,
excellent frothing skills?
Yeah, I was gonna say you didn't want to see my excellent frothing skills, which are like literally none.
I will say the best one was the first throw where I went to throw it hard, and I think I hit like, it wasn't a tree, but it was like some sort of.
I think it was a pole.
Yeah,
I thought it was like a plane or something.
I don't know, but I haven't laughed that hard in such a long time when you made that.
I haven't either. I mean, we were on the floor laughing. We literally were sitting down laughing.
A floor?
Well,
there, the caution on John. We were outside.
No,
it was the
grass
ground.
is a floor.
We were on the ground.
Kind of a floor, so
what?
Yep.
We're being technical here. But yeah, I'm looking forward to like the beginning part of the season. And then I was kind of looking at the end of the season too. I know kind of like, especially as it gets towards the end of the year, we have a lot of these specials that kind of like are on top of one another. And I know there's still a few schedules yet to be released, but I noticed that like so far it's not super cluttered, especially once you get past like Stampede weekend. Like Stampede weekend's probably gonna be the last big busy weekend, but like looking afterwards right now, the weekend after that is Oktoberfest and the Madtown Showdown, because I-94 special that they had last year's moved 2 weeks later. And so it's in between Ogilvy's specials, the Topless, and the Fall Classic. And so right now, I'd have to go over in the IR range to double check, because I don't know if they have any events scheduled over there right now, because I don't think the race that they have in Superior is on the schedule this year, because they haven't had luck running that race. And so right now, it's just very slim for races those weekends. And so that might help in just kind of like getting everyone all to like one race or just a couple races. And I think that'll help instead of like kind of spreading everyone out to end the year. So kind of looking forward to that. And I hope it stays that way. I hope it kind of keeps things a little more simplified as we get into the racing season for 2024. And so it's going to be some more scheduled developments, I'm sure, as the next few weeks roll along. And so why don't we display the white flag? Hey, I remember to say display the white flag, because sometimes you wave the white flag, but I like to display the white flag. And so any other scheduling thoughts, anything coming up that you want to highlight before we close out the show?
Mason, when's your first race besides what you've already seen in Florida?
It probably won't be until mid-April, depending on whether Devil's Lake or Mandan opens up.
Okay. Are you thinking about even, because Ogilvy's, I think, opening up, they're supposed to open up right around that same time as Devil's Lake, right?
Yes.
I think they open, is it that first weekend of maybe? I thought they were early April.
I think they are actually they're the first week, they're Saturday in April. However, I am going to be at a wedding on that day.
Okay.
So that's out for me. Yeah, I got my racing fix in. I'm ready for the racing season to start, but I'm just going to kind of keep it simple and just wait until everything starts up around here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. From my take of it, from like a racing perspective, I'm pretty excited for the season to start. I'm looking forward to the car show down in Mandan again at the Bismarck. At the Bismarck, at the not the Gateway Mall, the Kirkwood Mall here in Bismarck. To go down there and kind of see some of the paint schemes, because I think there'll be a lot of the really nice looking cars down there just based on talking to people. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. I will be at Mandan for the meltdown on the third weekend in April, as long as everything sticks with weather and everything goes according to schedule on that one. So I'll be able to take that in for my first race of the year before I leave for Vegas again. I basically have a second residence in Vegas this year, so I'll be down there from a Vegas perspective. I think for total wise in Vegas this year, guys, I think I'm going to be in Vegas at least 5 or 6 times this year alone.
Dang.
So yeah, I was down in Vegas in January. I will be back down in Vegas here at the end of March. I will be back down in Vegas right after the Mandan meltdown for the week of kind of that April 21st time frame. And then I'll be back down in Vegas in May and potentially back down in Vegas again in September, and maybe even a trip in between that. So it'll be a very interesting time frame.
John,
yes.
If the Mandan meltdown were to be postponed due to weather for whatever reason, and it was pushed back a week, do I need to potentially find a backup announcer?
Yes, you do.
All right, good to know.
No matter what way you're going to have to. Because I will for sure be gone that Friday and probably for sure that Saturday. The reason why is because Nationals for us, that's our week of National Bowling, and we are scheduled Thursday, Friday of this year. So I actually bowl at 9:30 Vegas time at night on that Friday night. So I will definitely not be there for sure on Friday.
Wow, that's late.
Yep. So I will for sure not be there Friday. I will be bowling Thursday and Friday this year for partially on that time frame, and then I don't get back until later on Saturday.
Mason, are you free the 26th and 27th by chance?
Well, as of right now, yes, I will be free. But before you even get to that, if you have weather postponed, just remembered, I conquered your favorite track again.
Okay, Denny Hamlin. Ay.
But no, in all seriousness, yeah, I will be gone that time frame. It's going to be kind of funny too because I'm pretty sure that that the week of I think it's Stampede week, I think is when I will be in Vegas for a couple days, potentially that week. I will for sure be back, so don't be worried about that. I will definitely be back by
I
that
say
time
that's his
frame.
birthday week too.
That is my birthday week. But yeah, so everything will come across from there. But no, I will be missing that that week for sure in Mandan.
Nice. Yeah, definitely gonna be interesting to see how the beginning of the year plays out, and hopefully everything goes off as scheduled. Becca, Jess, have any other closing thoughts that you have? Well,
Have
This
all
is
the
very
tracks
true.
in North Dakota released their schedule except for maybe one or two?
There's literally just 2
I think
tracks
it's
that have.
just it's the East, right? That just hasn't released their schedule.
Yep.
well, the chatter is because I know that like John's mentioned, there's a lot of people getting their cars ready. Like people are gonna be a lot of people are gonna be ready to go come like mid-April more than in years past. And so I think that's gonna kind of get the itch to kind of get the schedules out sooner,
Yep.
hopefully than
You know,
previous
guys,
years.
I did forget something from a schedule piece because we saw it actually get released this week. The awards banquet for Jamestown is March 30th. So a lot of us will be there for that on the March 30th time frame. But that'll be kind of a good lead into the season because it'll be basically awards banquet. I think car shows the next week over in Bismarck, Mandan, and then Test and Tune is the week right after that, and then it's scheduled to start on the 19th and 20th. So yeah, so it'll be kind of just kind of back to back to back.
And I will say, because I think besides Minot and Mandan, where else has car shows these days?
Grand Forks.
Well,
Grand
Forks
Forks has
one,
the
yeah.
one over at the
They
at
have a
the
good one. I like theirs.
yeah, they do. Yep, because theirs gets correspondent with them with the store up there as well.
Yep.
Dickinson usually has a car show. I think it's for one day from like
Yes.
noon to 4, but they have a car show too, I think.
Does Alex still do their car show in the mall, Mason? They used to always put it in
No, I
the
thought it was
mall
at
over
the
there
hockey
too.
rink.
The
Maybe it
Dickinson
is
one?
nowadays.
I thought it was at the hockey rink the last couple weeks, not weeks, years.
Maybe.
I don't remember if
So
Alex has one as of late. I haven't seen
Doesn't
one.
Jamestown have a car show?
and not anymore. They
They
used to.
used
They used to
to.
actually
Used
do.
to.
At the Civic
Used
Center,
to
they
do.
used to have. I thought they had.
Oh, yes, the car show in the middle of the winter. That's for any type of motorsports. It's for like the drags cars,
Yep.
the classic cars, and then also the regular like stock cars for the racetrack. But I think that already did that already happen? I feel like that already happened. I feel like that's usually right around the January, February timeframe. But I haven't, I guess I really haven't seen anything.
And I know
Um,
Aberdeen used to have a really good car show too in their
yes,
mall.
yeah. Aberdeen used to have a big one. Jamestown's used to be in the mall, then they used to have it at Wilhelm's. Wilhelm's they used to do one before the opener, kind of at Wilhelm's. But yeah,
The Shriners are having the Shriners out of Bismarck are actually having a car show at the event center, Bismarck Event Center, the first weekend in March. I think it's the 2nd and 3rd. It's for all sorts of cars, collectors, muscle, and last year there were quite a few race cars there too. So Dakota Speedway has a booth there. So if you are just a fan of cars in general, race cars, collectors, muscles, whatever, everything and on everything. And yeah, definitely check that out. That's coming up on March 2nd and 3rd here in Bismarck.
Absolutely.
Shriners or El Zago? Or is that the
Minot still does their car show, right, Mason? Nodak still
Ye-
does their big car show.
Yep, it's the Magic City Car and Trade Show, I believe, and I think that's in late March or early April.
Okay.
And that's kind of like a big, kind of like all sorts of cars, collectors, motocross, drag,
Yeah.
a lot of race cars there.
Yeah, there's a ton of, I think, regular stock cars there too. So, Mason, to build on your point too, the schedule basis of it, I think even like schedule wise, kind of excited this year because across the board from a schedule piece of it, and you guys touched on it a little bit on your last, last time episode, your season 1 episode or the first episode for the season. It was very interesting on how there's a lot of tracks out there that have a bunch of different specials this year. So a lot of tracks I think over the years have come kind of maybe stagnant on their schedule because of the fact of the matter that those tracks have been, same car classes, same thing over week, which I mean, you want to give praise to your weekly classes and spotlight those drivers, and I 100% agree. But a lot of tracks are bringing in like specials for various different classes that have never been at a track before, classes that haven't been to a track for years before. I mean, Becca mentioned the late models over at Daytona Speedway, which haven't been there in several years. So I think that'll be kind of an exciting thing in the summertime too, is a lot of different divisions are going to be racing at various tracks across just our region even, which would be kind of nice to see, as you keep scrolling around, and like Mason said, a lot of national touring series. So I'm kind of excited for that.
Yeah, kind of like I almost forgot, late models returning to Alexandria.
Yes, they're also going back over there too.
That's gonna be a popular one. Can't wait for that one. Well, I think that'll do it for this episode, for episode 2 of season 3 for the Track Packers podcast. Not sure when the next episode will come out, so be sure to just stay tuned for future content. As always, we want to thank our sponsors, Hitch Harness, Issac Hot Sauce Sondrol, and the Real Deal Brody Carlsrud. Be sure to like, share, and comment on our videos, and follow us on Facebook and YouTube for video form, Spotify, Google, and Apple on the podcast, and give us a 5-star review. Hope everyone's getting ready for the season. We can't wait to see you all out there packing the track.